6 months as the world's second largest economy maintained steady growth despite a highly uncertain global economy. Welcome to our special coverage of China's first half economic performance. I'm Michael Wong. So let's indeed break down the numbers for you. According to China's National Bureau of Statistics, second quarter GDP grew by 5.2% on year. That brings first half growth to 5.3% and above the government's full year target of around 5% growth. Industrial output climbed 6.4% in the first 6 months, with the value added of the equipment and high-tech manufacturing industries both jumping by around 10% on year. Fixed asset investment grew 2.8% in the first half, as an adjusting real estate sector continues to weigh on investment growth. Excluding real estate, fixed asset investment was 6.6%. Total retail sales of consumer goods grew by 5% in the first half. That's 0.4 percentage points faster compared to the first quarter. China's consumer goods trade-in policies gave a huge boost to certain consumer goods categories, with household appliances, electronics, and furniture sales, among others, all surging between 20 to 30%. Meanwhile, the urban unemployment rate edged down to 5.2% from Q1's 5.3%. Let's hear more from China's National Bureau of Statistics on the overall momentum of the Chinese economy.
The national economy withstood pressures and achieved growth. Overall, the performance of the economy was stable with a positive momentum, as evidenced by steady growth in production and demand, generally stable employment, continued increases in household income, and the expansion of new growth drivers. New progress has been made in high-quality development. The overall social situation has remained stable.
All right, so how did Chinese equities react to today's economic numbers? For more on that, let's get to Tim Pope for us in Shanghai. Tim, welcome to the program. So it was a bit of a mixed picture for Chinese mainland equities on this data-heavy day. Tell us more.
Yeah, Michael, the Chinese economic data did provoke a mixed reaction from the markets on the Chinese mainland, partly because there was some mixed data. The resilient economic data was welcomed, as were the strong trade and industrial output numbers. But a lot of this had already been priced in. The Shanghai Composite Index dipped by a bit less than 0.5% because that 5.2% growth for second quarter GDP, while it was a bit better than expected and in line with the targets for the full year, was also a slight slowdown from the first quarter's growth. Now, none of that was tremendously surprising. The strong rise for industrial output confirms the month-by-month numbers we've been seeing so far this year, and exports too have continued strong. Where we are seeing some of the market's lingering concerns is over the real estate market and retail sales as well. We learned that investment in property dipped more than 11% in the first half of the year, and new home prices are still falling in many cities. So the market recognises there's work to be done there and a recovery ongoing, and that was reflected in the dip for real estate shares today. A sub-index tracking that sector was down 1.2%. But this data wasn't actually the only thing that was moving the markets today. We had the announcement that the chip giant NVIDIA would start selling AI chips to China again, and that was definitely a boost for the AI and cloud computing sectors today. A sub-index tracking the latter was up 7.3%. And a lot of these smaller cap stocks are listed in Shenzhen, and that did help the Shenzhen component to make an overall gain of more than 0.5% today, Michael.
Right, Tim, so that was today, but how do things look over the course of the year so far for mainland equities?
Yeah, the story for the first half of this year for Chinese and for the Asian stock markets as well, I think, has been one of resilience. The global economic, trade and geopolitical environment has thrown a lot at us over the last 6 months. But through it all, the markets have been on a broadly upward trend. Chinese mainland markets are now hovering around 9-month highs at the moment, with the Shanghai Composite Index above 3,500 points. In Hong Kong, the Hang Seng started the year below 20,000 points and is now comfortably above 24,000. Trade and this constantly changing US tariff policies have been a huge hurdle for the markets. And although investors appear to have arrived at their taco trading strategy now, and that's eased away a few of the bumps, April 2nd was more than a bump, though. It was a big shock for the markets. and it took months to properly recover from. And there is an argument to be made that the uncertainty that Donald Trump unleashed that day hasn't been put back in the box completely yet. But on the Chinese mainland, markets we've seen hope there among investors that they've been focusing instead on fundamentals like the economic resilience and the prospects for stimulus and reform as well. And those reform hopes have grown over the last couple of weeks with talk of supply-side changes that need to be made to curb price wars in a few sectors. In Hong Kong, we've seen confidence return alongside a rush among companies to list on that market. And those numbers this year represent a massive turnaround in Hong Kong, in the Hong Kong exchange's fortunes. I've mentioned before on the program that there's been $12.8 billion raised off listings in the first half of 2025. And if we take a look at Japan, we can also see the market there sitting at a fairly high level despite a turbulent year. Last year, it was big news whenever the Nikkei cracked 40,000 points. Now that happens every couple of weeks. And investors are talking about 45,000 as the market's next milestone. And today's NVIDIA news was also definitely a boost for the Nikkei, with its chip equipment stocks rising very strongly on the prospect of the US allowing AI chips to be sold to China once again, Michael.
All right, Tim, many thanks for that update. As always, Tim Pope for us in Shanghai. Thanks, Tim. All right, let's get more on China's economy in the first 6 months of the year and bring in Zhang Ning, senior China economist at UBS Investment Bank. Ning, welcome to the program. So we've had some time now to digest China's first half and second quarter GDP numbers. Give us your overall take first on the momentum, on the resilience, and of course, some of the remaining concerns of the Chinese economy for the first half of 2025.
Thank you. So all speaking, for sure, China's growth momentum stayed quite robust in the first half. We see 5.4% in Q1 and 5.2% in Q2. That resilience has been remarkable. So clearly, the resilience has been underpinned by several fronts, and also China's ongoing recovery of the GDP growth has been uneven. So the bright spots in China has been coming from 2 or 3 fronts. The first one is a better than expected exports, even with a tariff shock from US administration. Clearly, China has been shifting the export orders to elsewhere, plus some front-loading of the shipments to the US. Meanwhile, China's policy easing has been quite positively affecting China's retail sales, in particular for the trade-in subsidies and also the equipment upgrading subsidies, etc. So meanwhile, clearly, China's corporate capex and some emerging sectors have been outperforming versus other old economies. But the challenge is still very apparent. The first one is China's continued profit downturn. We see a weakness of the home sales investment in Q2 from Q1. The profit downturn is continuing. So meanwhile, China's deflation environment intensified, with the PPI dipping much deeper and the overall GDP deflator turning even worse in second quarter. Also, clearly, China's tariff shock is not over. We are only in the truce period in the current quarter and in July. So ultimate shock from the additional tariff will be on the table eventually. So that's still a challenge for China as a whole.
Right. So then given today's macro numbers, Ning, what's your outlook for fiscal and monetary policy in the second half of the year to reinforce growth? I mean, 5.3%, of course, is comfortably within the government's target of around a 5% growth. But of course, the property market still needs to adjust. Consumption still facing some headwinds. And of course, we have tariff uncertainty as well. So how will the policy stance, you think, shape up in H2?
Of course. So we have the very robust first half. But clearly, more challenges may be coming in second half because of the payback of the previous favorable factors, like front-loading of exports, the trade-in subsidies is diminishing, plus a high base effect in Q4, etc., and also continued profit downturn. That's why it's still very, very needed for additional stimulus in the second half of this year. So the government now is a little bit more comfortable than before in managing the policy settings. We think the additional stimulus will be data dependent, and also the scale of the stimulus may be modest. We see another maybe over 0.5 percentage point of GDP in additional fiscal stimulus on top of the NPC budget fiscal plans to support the general fiscal spending, infrastructure investment, and even for some additional support for trade program. So meanwhile, China's PBOC may continue to cut interest rate by another 20 BPs in the second half of this year to fight against the deflation challenges and also to anchor expectations amid the tariff uncertainties. At last, the government should also rule out additional policy support to stabilize the housing market, like bring down the mortgage rates and also facilitate more progress of the destocking of inventory in China. So that's what I expect for the second half.
Okay, Ning, many thanks for your thoughts on that. We're going to leave it there. Stay with us. We'll be back with you in just a moment. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back.
The world economy as we know it is about to change. Global business reports highlight emerging markets, developing countries, and dynamic sectors worldwide. We feature top analysts and newsmakers to provide perspectives on every facet of business. From an on-the-ground perspective, we provide you with balanced and objective assessments. Fast, sharp, and insightful. Global Business. Only on CGTN.
All right, I want to zoom in now, in particular on Chinese consumption. That's as China views boosting consumption as a major policy priority going forward. Our Xu Yi is here with a detailed look at the state of the Chinese consumer. Xu Yi, what do you got for us?
Thank you, Michael. So China's consumer market demonstrated robust growth in the first half of 2025, with retail sales of consumer goods rising 5% year-on-year to 24.5 trillion yuan. And this marked a 0.4 percentage point acceleration from the first quarter, reflecting strengthening household consumption. And the digital economy continued to be a major growth driver, as online retail sales expanded 8.5% to reach 7.4 trillion yuan, including 6 trillion yuan from physical goods sales, which accounted for nearly 25% of total retail sales. And the positive trend stemmed from effective nationwide implementation of pro-consumption policies. Both central and local governments have rolled out comprehensive measures that injected strong momentum into the consumer market. Notably, trading programs have yielded significant results, boosting market vitality while driving industrial upgrades in key sectors like home appliances and automobiles, evidenced by a remarkable 30.7% surge in sales of household appliances and audio-video equipment. Also, cultural consumption emerged as a particular bright spot, led by phenomenally successful domestic IPs. The animated film Ne Zha 2 achieved the box office with 15.9 billion yuan in revenue and ranking 5th globally, a historic achievement for domestic cinema. Also, meanwhile, the Labubu doll craze captivated consumers worldwide, helping propel China's trendy toy market toward the 100 billion yuan milestone. And with household spending power steadily unlocking, consumer demand is poised to sustain its first half momentum through the remainder of 2025. Michael.
That Labubu doll really has some momentum, doesn't it, Xu Yi? Do you have one? This seems like a collectible now with investment value.
Yeah, maybe I will have one after the show.
All right, thanks for that, Xu Yi. Well, as the popularity of collectible toys surges here in China, related merchandise such as pins, keychains, and badges is helping enthusiasts to stay connected to the characters they love. Our reporter Lu Siray chatted with fans to find out what's behind all of this buzz.
A chaotic morning before a TV interview. All because too much love spilled over. So, what is this love? You're right, collectible toys. Hu has collected such toys for more than 7 years. He said the trend is shifting from stacking toys on shelves to carrying pieces that are easier to show off.
就刚喜欢上模型的时候，实际就是真的是高中喜欢上。
I started collecting in high school and used my breakfast money to buy toys. My parents thought it was a waste, but now they've changed.
This is Social City. This place has been a treasure trove of toys and manga for over 2 decades. Now it's evolving, keeping up with the growing trend of designer toys. Soon, I realized these shops aren't just for Gen Z.
那个时候就有手办了吗？
有
20年前。
I've been into these figures for over 20 years, since my university days. Back then, they weren't available on the Chinese mainland. I could only admire them online. It wasn't until I started working and they became accessible that I began collecting. Now, I'm mostly here for the nostalgia.
Many stores that once focused on garage kids are now offer guzi, a term young collectors use for character merch like pins, keychains, and badges.
我们在这儿是有10年了。
We have been here for 10 years. We used to only sell designer toys. A couple of years ago, we started carrying goods merch. Now everyone sells goods.
The rise of domestic anime and games has driven this shift. For fans, buying merch isn't just about collecting, it's about staying connected to the characters they love. Last year, China's merch economy hit nearly $24 billion. By 2029, it's projected to reach over $42 billion. Both the designer toy and merch economies reflect the shift. People now are willing to pay for emotional value. 卢思蕊 CGTN, Beijing.
All right, for more on China's consumption market, let's bring back John Ning, senior China economist at UBS Investment Bank. Ning, so of course, China has said that boosting domestic demand, in particular boosting consumption, is a top priority for the country. Final consumption did drive 52% of first-half GDP growth, according to the NBS. How do you see the direction of travel so far in terms of the policy measures announced on boosting consumption?
China has been in the right direction in boosting consumption, like doubling the size of trade-in subsidies, ruling out the much-awaited child care subsidies, and increase the payout levels for China's basic pension program. All are in the good directions. But clearly, that has boosted the China retail sales and the related sectors' performance. But we are seeing some challenges as well. For example, China's household consumer sentiment has been cautious, saving rate is still high, and also fiscal subsidies for consumption may face a mini fiscal cliff in Q4 and even beyond. And social spending increase has been not that much. That's why we still see additional efforts the government can do in the future.
So even though the value add of China's services sector accounts for about 60% of China's GDP now, Ning, the latest demand for high-quality services in China still remains, I think, large. The potential for demand on that front is also large. So how do you see the potential of further unlocking the service sector and the growth there as a way to support domestic consumption?
China needed to do additional efforts in both demand and supply side. For demand side, for sure, that's related to disposable income growth and also overall stabilization of the housing market, etc. For supply side, again, we see additional efforts in removing the red tapes for the sector entry barriers and lower entry barriers, leveling the playing field, and further opening up the market to foreign travelers, and even try to consolidate some kind of different themes to promote the different service sectors, etc. So that's what China can do. And clearly, China's future on the service sector has been huge, and we see a lot of potential in the future. But the service versus manufacturing sector is not a so-called zero-sum game. We see both sides with high potential.
Okay, many thanks for your thoughts on all of that, Ning. John Ning, senior China economist at UBS Investment Bank, joining us there. All right, we'll be right back.
How do we make sense of China's economy? We examine how manufacturing is transforming into a high-quality powerhouse. We assess the progress in green development and rural revitalization. And we track how China's trade continues to connect with the world. China Eco Frontiers, your guide at the front line of China's economic landscape. only on CGTN.
All right, turning now to China's foreign trade, which showed resilience in the first half of this year. The latest data from the General Administration of Customs shows the country's foreign trade reached nearly 22 trillion yuan, or around $3 trillion in the first half of 2025, increasing by 2.9% compared to the same period last year. Now, during the first 6 months of 2025, China's exports rose 7.2% on year, while imports fell 2.7%. Imports and exports of private companies went up by 7.3%, accounting for 57.3% of the total trade volume. Export growth was led by mechanical and electrical products, which rose 9.5% and made up 60% of total exports. China's foreign trade with over 190 countries and regions has increased, and trade exceeded 50 billion yuan with 61 trading partners, 5 more than the same period last year. A trade with Belt and Road Initiative partner countries rose 4.7% to reach nearly 11.3 trillion yuan. Trade with BRI countries now account for nearly 52% of China's total foreign trade. That's while trade with markets such as the EU, Japan, and the UK continued to grow. Well, several global financial institutions have raised their economic growth forecasts for China following progress in the first half of this year. UBS has raised its 2025 GDP growth forecast to 4%. That's up from its previous estimate of 3.4%. Natixis has upped its forecast to 4.5% from 4.2%, contingent on the further implementation of stimulus measures. Morgan Stanley has upgraded its China GDP outlook for 2025 to 4.5% from 4.2%. The bank cites improved domestic market conditions and the positive impact of government policies on consumption and investment. On equities, Nomura has upgraded Chinese equities to tactical overweight, reallocating some of its funds from other emerging markets. And Citi has increased its Hang Seng Index target by 2% by the end of the year. Well, as U.S. tariffs continue to impact China-U.S. trade, we spoke with experts to learn how Chinese exporters are staying competitive in the world market.
整个这个制造业的一个多样性，我觉得对于他们来说是不可替代的。
The diversity of China's manufacturing sector is, in my view, irreplaceable for many overseas clients. Our industrial ecosystem is so complete that an idea can be quickly turned into a finished product within just a few days in places like Shenzhen in Guangdong province.
Under U.S. tariffs, some clients compare our products with those from other countries like India or Vietnam. But what sets Chinese companies apart is our consistency in quality, shorter lead times, and reliable after-sales service.
Despite high tariffs, many Chinese products remain competitively priced compared to similar goods. Therefore, Chinese companies need to focus more on building their own brands to strengthen their presence in the global market.
50% of the world's AI researchers are here in China, and there are so many innovative and dynamic companies here in China. It's really important that American companies are able to compete and serve the market here in China. It's a great springboard for all of the other markets as well.
Well, despite growing U.S. trade pressures, Chinese manufacturers are adapting. Our reporters traveled across China where they found private companies not only surviving these trade pressures, but actively developing innovative ways to strengthen their global competitive position.
像这一篇都是我们出口美国、欧洲的订单，那么就是说，特别是我们出口美国的这个。 那我们订单量非常大的，那么占比在我们公司大概10%左右。我们4月份出口那个美国的那个货物都卡在了那个货代仓库了。好在这个5月12号，那个中美关税达成了一个暂缓的90天协议。那么这个过程当中，客人也非常高兴，那接到通知马上就通知我们，哎呀，可以出运了。
The company she works for is a leading shoe manufacturer in Wenzhou, a city in China's export powerhouse province of Zhejiang. The US remains one of its key overseas markets. Kang9 began building its brand abroad in 2001.
其实我们这个智能车间前年底正式的能够上线，只不过我们今年关税一下子来得这么快，大家是意想不到的。不过还好，我们通过前几年已经开始准备。 大部分的产品我们都是走高端的产品。其实做鞋，你说简单很简单，2副气球可以办个鞋厂，做些低端。所以像我们这样的企业做低端，我们竞争是没有优势的。所以我们对于未来来说，我们必须要走高端的路线，必须加强我们内部的核心竞争力。不管环境怎么变，不管关税怎么高，但是呢，整个环境对大家、对每个企业是公平的。只要我们各方面做到领先于别人，提升我们的核心价值力，我们是不要担心的。
Breaking news this morning: a major breakthrough in the trade war between the United States and China, agreeing to a temporary but significant easing of those tariffs,
raising hopes of an end to their ongoing trade war.
To fully understand the far-reaching ripple effects, I need to step inside these factories to get a feel for the real lives behind the headlines.
Recently, most of our large orders have come from the Middle East, Malaysia, and Singapore, with fewer from Europe or the US.
The company I'm visiting, Kirby, was founded in 2008. Their entire business was once built on exports 100%. The initial tranche of US tariffs under the first Trump administration around 2018 chipped that down to 70%.
When the tariffs reached over 100%, our exports essentially came to a halt, and all the goods stayed in the warehouse. The customers couldn't bear these costs, and our factory also couldn't afford the high tariffs.
Now they're compelled to look closer to home. This pivot from exports is a common strategy, a market movement born of necessity. But the competition is fierce, especially on price.
Our customers are under pressure too. Prices in the high-end market are coming down, which in turn is pushing down the prices for our own mid to high-end clients. Of course, we aren't going to cut our workers' wages just because our prices are lower. It's a cost we share and absorb with our customers. I truly believe this is just temporary. This will all pass, and things will definitely get better.
5月份以来，美国市场那边询价开始增多，然后新订单现在也接到了8月份，发货量也持续在增长。
In Huangshan, Anhui, executives at a local leading auto parts manufacturer are reviewing export orders for this month. I visited Guanrun in June, a leading manufacturer specializing in auto steering systems, with the United States remaining their top consumer for years. After the joint announcements by China and the US for tariffs on May 12, his factory began to ship previously frozen orders to the US. And facing the high tariffs, Dai Chaoliang kept his factory running under pressure. But the canceled US orders left a gap.
美国说单停掉了，那单停的我们设备要生产啊。
How could they feel it?
所以我们把这个产品剔掉，就把美国的产品停掉。我们没有说所谓的专线，因为我们的产品是，打比说我们适用于福特汽车。那福特汽车我们做好了，也可以卖美国，也可以卖到墨西哥，也可以卖给巴西。
And during our visit here, plenty of workers and sales reps noted that lately, their production rhythm has gone back to normal.
没有担心过，这个没有担心，因为我们相信公司，相信老板的实力。因为这前2个月的话稍微会少一点，但是这2个月的话都是满额生产的。
And the XX figured out earlier that diversification is smarter than putting all eggs into one basket.
对我们来讲，我们觉得这个美国这个市场单一市场占的这个份额太大，对我们来讲的话，风险也比较大。无论如何，我们可能要提升一下这些市场的这个市场占比，去分散一下公司的这个经营的风险。
And in an exclusive interview, Christine Lagarde, president of the European Central Bank, explained how escalating trade tensions and volatile trade talks are creating uncertainty in the global economy, resulting in a what she calls lose-lose situation.
Well, when I look at the global economy, I see an economy that has sustained a series of incredible shocks. You know, we have short memory, but when we remember what we faced in the last 3 years, it's incredible. So from those successive and almost compounded shocks, eventually the global economy came out with a high degree of resilience And this is particularly the case in Europe. And unfortunately, as we were going into this recovery mode, great uncertainty landed on our global economy as a result of the tariff threats and the announcements that were made and then withdrawn and paused and negotiated. And that has dampened global growth expectations. Our projections have been revised downwards. So have the projections of the IMF, the World Bank, the OECD, and most countries are affected. It's not a win-win situation, it's a lose-lose situation that we are looking at the moment. And it's aggravated by the level of uncertainty that is actually putting a hold, if you wish, on many investment projects, on many developments, because investors are not too sure what the future lays ahead.
All right, let's get more on China's foreign trade and bring in Daryl Guppy, CEO of GuppyTraders.com. Daryl, good to see you. Welcome to the program. I think one of the major questions, of course, on the mind of investors, markets, observers of the global economy is how the evolution of the China-U.S. trade relationship will go from here. Do you expect some kind of trade détente between China and the United States, given that after multiple rounds of tariff barrages, we've seen that the world's two largest economies are simply too interconnected to engage in a large-scale tariff war?
There's certainly a tense détente that's likely to develop. We see a potential reduction in tariffs, but not an elimination. Trump will continue to use particular tariffs on items like rare earths and so on as a weapon. But China has options with both the global south and the countries that are involved in the Belt and Road Initiative. We have to remember that the US is essentially bankrupt with massive debts, so Trump needs to generate tariff income. Dodgy cut some of the costs. We're looking at conversion of treasuries to 50 and 100-year bonds so that defers loan payments. So tariffs must be seen within that context of being able to tackle essentially bankruptcy.
Well, Daryl, what's your outlook for China's import growth as the country focuses more on demand-side policies to boost domestic demand?
Well, we're certainly seeing that China can continue to maintain this type of progress. It's not changing. The domestic demand can be satisfied by domestic production. That's the objective of the dual circulation policy development. It's been in place for several years and it's beginning to show the fruits. Imports have to compete against domestic production. One of the key factors is an increase in Chinese brand awareness and reliability. These features will make it a more competitive market for imports, so growth of imports will be slower.
Okay, we're going to leave it there. Daryl, many thanks for your thoughts on all of that. Daryl Guppy, CEO of GuppyTraders.com. Well, Tahir Farouk, chairman of the Daily Ittihad Media Group and the Pakistan Economic Network, and also the head of the Center for Regional Connectivity with a Shared Future, spoke to us on the importance of China's market for global investors in this joint production with Pakistan Economic Net.
China's economic growth for the rest of 2025 is expected to remain steady and resilient, maintaining its momentum despite global uncertainties and tariff challenges. The country is on track to meet its official growth target of around 5%, supported by a robust service sector, increasing domestic demand, and strong policy support for the central government. Strategic fiscal measures, infrastructure investments, and incentives for consumption are playing a key role in sustaining growth even as external pressures, including US-led tariffs, persist. At the same time, China's commitment to continued opening up remains firm and forward-looking. Through initiatives such as the updating of the negative list for foreign investments, promotion of unified national market, and reforms under the dual circulation strategy, China is making its economy more accessible and attractive to global investors. This openness is not just a policy stance, it is a signal that China is ready to lead by example in building a more cooperative global economy.
so many things from home and abroad.
We invite you to find focus.
To focus on people's livelihoods.
Focus on producing and spending.
Focus on opening and sharing.
And focus on an innovative and green path.
Don't lose focus to unveil a real, authentic China.
Get ready to biz focus.
All right, let's get a closer look now at China's manufacturing sector. Here's our Xu Yi once more. Xu Yi, so take us behind those headline numbers.
Okay, thank you, Michael. So in the first half of 2025, China's industrial value-added output from major enterprises grew 6.4% on a yearly basis. From January to June, high-tech manufacturing output surged 9.5%, supported by nearly 5 million value invention patent applications, driving integrated innovation and high-tech sector growth. And China has also reinforced its position as the world's largest manufacturing hub for 15 consecutive years, with annual manufacturing value-added output consistently exceeding 30 trillion yuan, or about $4.1 trillion since the start of the 14th five-year plan. And the country leads global production in over 200 major industrial products, demonstrating enduring industrial strength. And innovation continues to accelerate with breakthroughs like DeepSeek's AI advancements, robotic competitions, aerospace achievements, autonomous driving technologies, and the world's largest 5G network showcasing China's technological leadership. And meanwhile, green development is gaining momentum as the new trail, new energy vehicles, lithium batteries, and solar products maintain strong growth, supporting high-quality, sustainable economic expansion. Back to you, Michael.
All right, Xu Yi, many thanks for that report. Well, with the rapid advancement of artificial intelligence, it seems almost inevitable that humanoid robots will soon be a part of our daily lives. But how do these robots transition from training centers to becoming our helpers and companions? Our Wang Tianyu finds out.
This is a humanoid robot training center. The robots here are being trained to learn, adapt, and evolve, ultimately aiming to become helpful assistants or companions. What these robots have to learn are the things we are often too lazy to do ourselves. For example, in factories, automated machines, which you can consider non-human robots, have already taken on a lot of the work that used to be done by human workers. Why do these robots have to be designed so similarly to a person?
Our entire society is designed based on human ergonomics. A humanoid robot can make full use of the tools and infrastructure already created for humans, which makes it extremely convenient.
Having the ability to conduct working skills is not enough for robots to be intelligent. They need to perceive and understand the world and us. A 40-minute drive away from the training center, a company specializing in developing multimodal large language models is using that to help robots process images, videos, and text.
A robot's behavior follows two main steps. First, a highly generalized multimodal model interprets intentions, plans tasks, and breaks them down. This is crucial. Second, the cerebellum translates these plans into concrete movements.
So, the larger database a robot's brain has, the broader knowledge it gets. Both knowledge and skills are important for humanoid robots to come into our home.
In the long run, the real breakthrough will be integrating multimodal models with embodied intelligence and applying them in real industries. But the day of true adoption may come soon.
By the end of last year, China has more than 450,000 intelligent robot-related companies. For many of them, the next target they want to achieve is probably to make the robot finish self-directed learning. Or, in other words, to teach themselves. Wang Tianyu, CGTN, Shanghai.
Well, in the first half of this year, global business reporters have told the China story from various trade fairs, business gatherings, and high-level meetings, helping our global viewers navigate the changes in economic policies and business environment. Now, as we wrap up our special coverage of China's first half economic performance, here's a closer look back at the highlights from their first-hand frontline reporting. I'm Michael Wang here in Beijing. We'll see you again next time.
In the 2025 government work report, China has set key economic targets, including around 5% GDP growth, an urban surveyed unemployment rate of about 5.5%.
From the Boao Forum for Asia, the message is loud and clear. Today, Asia's dynamism, China's policy consistency, and China's commitment to opening up, they are anchors of global economic stability as well.
The China International Consumer Products Expo, I'm in the thick of it. It's hustling, it's bustling, and this is not just an exhibition of the latest and greatest tech, consumer goods, luxury goods, cars. It's also an exhibition of China's massive, gargantuan consumer market and its still burgeoning potential.
The world is facing many challenges, and in this process of global collaboration, China is a key partner. At the 2025 Summer Davos, discussions on AI and green transition are unfolding with remarkable intensity.
Now, with AI as a central theme at this year's Summer Davos, it raises the question, how will AI reshape our lives in the long run?
I'm at the 6th Qingdao Multinational Summit.
179 Fortune Global 500 companies have invested in Qingdao, with more on the way to settle in this coastal city.